Welcome to the Global Gratitude Summit. I'm Luann Saraga Walters.
And I'm Sharon Saraga Walters.
Our guest today has built her life through the power of gratitude. And when you know her story, you'll see why that's so incredibly significant. Magie Cook was raised in an orphanage in Mexico, and through her childhood, she witnessed or experienced many forms of abuse to her, her blood siblings, or the over 60 children that she shared a home with and whom she also calls her brothers and sisters. At a very young age, Magie became their leader. She comforted them during times of distress and encouraged them to love and honor themselves and each other. She was grateful in spite of extreme limitations, like having only lettuce and sugar for a meal. Think about that. And she always focused on what she had, not what she didn't have. Magie took this focus and intentional gratitude practice with her to the United States, where she was offered a full basketball scholarship and created $1 million salsa business. Her book, Mindful Success: From Orphanage to Millionaire, relates her remarkable story. I could not put it down when I read it. And we are so very grateful to have her on the summit. Welcome, Magie. It's always good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
You know, I want to get going with this, and we really want to start with your story a little bit. Can you talk to, in a brief format, kind of filling in some of the holes that I left out, a little bit more of your story going from the orphanage to the point that you sold it? And we don't have a lot of time, so just try to summarize the dots.
Well, it's very interesting to me to, be in this country and come to this country to find what a lot of people call a normal family, but I certainly wasn't born into one. And I had born in an orphanage. I had 68 brothers and sisters, literally, because my parents adopted 60 kids, and there's 8 of us biological, and there's sometimes at least over 200 kids that live there with us. The reason why we believe my siblings and I had it a little bit rougher is because we heard our dad speaking to our mom in the kitchen one day not to pay too much attention to us, a disregard, just because he was afraid that the other kids would see that and run away or leave. So it was harder for us. We got into trouble a lot more than the regular adopted kids, but it was something that I think gave us strength and made us come together even stronger as adults. But growing in the orphanage, you talk about being hungry and coming up with resources and becoming resourceful to feeding yourself, to the point that we became hunters. My brothers and I would go up in the mountains, and I still have my knife that I used to hunt with, and we climbed trees at night, stayed there for all night, and with spotlights, when we saw something, we would shine it, and then we would throw nets and catch it. And that's how we did it for a while. The times that we did have food, it wasn't very good. I remember being served a cooked onion, a full cooked onion with no salt, and I didn't want to eat it, but I was made to eat it, and I threw it on the ground, and not even the skinny dog that was hungry would eat it. Just got up and walked away. Those are the kind of the stronger memories that I have, just because when you suffer, things like that stay with you. But coming to the United States was such a blessing, because as a way out, I wanted to pursue something. And the first thing that came to me was basketball, because everybody played it in college, in high school. And so I became so good. I actually was in charge of a boy named Pancho, and we actually found him on a dumpster. He had spinal bifida as a baby. He was a baby, and he couldn't walk, so we think that's why they got rid of him. But growing up, it was my responsibility to carry him on my back wherever I went. So I had this brilliant idea that, hey, Pancho, why don't you, I'm going to blindfold myself, and you tell me left, right, stop, turn. And that's what I did, and that's how I got really good, to the point that the Mexican national team asked me to come play for them. But I broke my collarbone and I couldn't go. And I ended up, when I say nothing happens by accident, my dad told me your dreams are over, and I thought they were over. But then I strongly believed within me that there was always something better. And I think it was 4 to 6 months later, my parents took us to the United States with all my siblings. And we stopped at a picnic in Charleston, West Virginia. And there was a basketball court, played. Coach of the University of Charleston happened to be there, saw me play, and she said, I want her to come play for me on a scholarship. And that's why I'm here today. And even though I graduated college and actually became homeless after college because I couldn't find a job, I was actually living on the streets, and I was living in the wooded areas. And at the time, I didn't even know I was homeless because I lived in the woods most of my life growing up. So when somebody told me, hey, I remember you were homeless, and now you're so successful, I'm like, I had to think about it like, wait a minute, I guess I was homeless. And so you take those things and you're so grateful. And I found myself many times, including up to this point where I'm driving my car, a nice car, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I started crying, and I think I wouldn't have this opportunity. I wouldn't be driving this if I was in Mexico right now. And you just never take for granted the things that you have and where you've come from. So when I came out of homelessness, I entered a salsa contest in West Virginia, and fresh salsa pico de gallo. And I won by unanimous vote for the entire state. And that was my aha moment. Started my company, not knowing anything about business. And it grew so rapidly. Whole Foods wanted it. Then once I was in Whole Foods, talk about going from zero to $40,000 in 1 week of profits. And then, Walmart wanted it, Sam's Clubs wanted it, and it just grew so big. And it actually sold a Campbell Soup in 2015 with a package deal with a Garden Fresh for $231 million, I believe. So that's been my journey. And then we can talk about, me going back to Mexico and doing all that. I don't know if you want me to do that right now. Do you want me to?
We'll lead you there, but I think, I want to hear the attendees of this summit are probably going, oh my gosh, because your story, and this is why, and I'm talking to the people who are listening and watching this. When I read this book, I literally started it in a morning reading session. I like to read in the morning as an inspirational kickoff to my day. And the first chapter I read, I said, this is not a chapter a day book. And I continued to read it. And 4 hours later, I sent Maggie an email and I said, I have to talk to you because everything in this, your life, Maggie, is so transformational. And it was just a part of you. And I know that there was work that went with that. I know we've talked about that too. But we'll talk more about your nonprofit and the orphanage a little bit further. But first, I wanted to turn it over to Sharon so that we can kind of talk about that gratitude aspect.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie, for sharing your story. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How did you practice gratitude as a child in the orphanage?
That's a very good question and a very important one. I didn't think of it as gratitude. I was thinking more of it as hope because I was thinking more about how can I get out of here? How can I have a better life? How can I inspire myself to do and be a great human being and inspire others to do as well, to be as well. My moments of gratitude were sporadic and that I was still am a dreamer that I would get lost in the mountains for 2 to 3 days and nobody would even notice me. And those are the moments that I was so grateful and I allowed to dream. I allowed myself to think that I was an Indian or a Superman or Superwoman or, karate person, or I was just free. And in that, one of the things that I did is I was like 6 years old and I started digging these caves on the sides of big mountaintop canyons. And I still have photos of that. Actually, it's on my videos on my website. And I used to build these caves because they were my secret hiding places. They were my places to rest. And to me, to have something like that, like my own little place that nobody knew about it, even when they went out looking for me, they couldn't find me. And I would be laughing because I had my secret hiding place. Those kind of things, that was gratitude for me. But I saw it more as hope because when you're in an environment of suffering, it's hard to think, to put yourself in a place in a good place when there's a lot of fear. And there's a lot of times where you feel like you could die any moment, something could happen to you.
I think my
Mhm.
big takeaway from that too is that you found the good in those situations,
Yes.
and in 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 my heart that feels like a gratitude of
Yes.
being able to have your alone time, being
Yes.
able to have
Yes.
your visualization time, the
Yes.
numbers of stories that you recount where you're able to help your brothers and sisters through really tough times,
Yes.
knowing the love that you felt for them and knowing that you were able to help them.
Yes.
You just always focused on that. And
Yes.
in things just opened up. We were going to ask you if you had any specific instances where you remembered trying to be grateful. So that's one thing I'd say. You couldn't have been positive all the time. There had to have been some times when you're like, ah.
Mhm.
So how did you reroute your thinking? How did you reroute your feeling, your heart, to put yourself in a better space during that time in your childhood?
Well, that's a really good question. To believe it or not, when I came to the United States, I read a lot of books about goals and affirmations and vision boards, visioning. But I was creating these vision boards in the orphanage. I was creating these boards with where I wanted to be, how I wanted to look. I pictured myself as an adult woman with long hair, with heels, not a dress, but pants and like a nice, and I envisioned myself very successful. And to me, to have those moments of gratitude, I didn't know if it was going to be possible, but I was there in my mind. I was there. And I think it's so important to be there in your mind in order if you want to manifest anything in your life, because what you think about, you do bring about, as you know.
Hmm. Well, you just led into something that I wanted to talk to you about, and that's from your book. There's a reading that is. I'm gonna read it out loud. I'm gonna do kind of a little reverse because then I want you to, if you would share how you came to this amazing recognition and philosophy in yourself. So this is called "There Are No Accidents." Attracting undesired circumstances into your life simply means that you are off course and that your thought process needs a shift in awareness. But when you manifest something unwanted in your life, it is perfect because there are no accidents. It is perfect because it creates awareness that allows you to analyze your current emotional thought process and make the necessary changes to your current state of being. It is the universe's way of giving you constructive awareness. It allows you to grow. It births in you new rockets of desire. When you choose to see good in everything, you attract greater things into your life. When something undesired happens in your life, you can ask yourself, how is this meant to make me better? Or what does this mean to teach me?
Yes.
How many times did you go through the process of, I'm going to try to see things, I'm going to appreciate what I have that's good right now in order to be able to have hope for the other things that will come my way? How long did that take? Was that something, let's dive into that a little bit about
Are you
that.
talking about are you talking about in the orphanage or now or both?
Both in your
Okay.
life. Yeah. How did you manage to come to this very strong
Mhm.
philosophy of hope,
Mhm.
gratitude, goodness? Wow.
I just had a really strong feeling, and I don't know if it was born within me, but it was a willingness to experience something better, to not be in that same circumstance forever. And being a kid, many kids can in third world countries will experience that it's really hard for them to stay where they are because they have no choice until they grow up and they can be about their own lives. But to me, it was so powerful for me to I just had this feeling that no matter what happens, that there's something better. Even if, like, when my dad told me that my dreams were over, I knew that the Mexican national team was great, but I think that there's something better. I just felt it, and I knew it, and it happened for me. It really happened for me. And it happened in many, many. When I recognized those patterns, I began to even emphasize my thinking more and how could I possibly think more positively with gratitude every single day, because I understood that something's happening in my life that it's not happening for anybody else of my siblings. So I began to take notice and practice that more. And then I realized you know, manifested things like the Walmart contract. Literally, Walmart called me. I didn't call them because I was visualizing with gratitude that I already had that opportunity. I didn't even say Walmart. I still have my notes. The largest food chain in the world is going to call me. And when they called me 28 days later, my business partner's like, "It's a prank. Hang out, hang up. You know, it's a prank." And I had to ask, "Is this a prank?" And but it became real, and a lot of everything in my life that I've manifested is because I had a strong feeling of gratitude and a strong feeling of already having it now. And that's really, really tremendously helped my life and the lives of other people that I've come in contact that I've been able to share this with.
So we're going to take you past the national basketball team. We know you were recruited and you came to the United States, and Sharon has our next question,
Sure.
because that was also a challenging time for you.
So, Maggie, when you came to the United States, you barely spoke English and
Yes.
speak beautifully now. You really do. How did you overcome that limitation? And what was your focus while attending college?
I came to the United States when I got recruited to play basketball. I had several months to learn English. They put me on an institute. They failed me. They said, "You can't go to college." I was trying to pass the TOEFL test, the test to come to go to college here. And they failed me and they said, "You can't go to college." And I don't know how I got into college, but I got into college. And I remember being so stressed about the fact that I could not understand anything my teacher said. So I had to stay behind each class, talk to them. And I remember that I started watching a lot of American TV and my jaws will swell up because in English we use the back of the mouth. In Spanish you use usas la parte de adelante de la boca. O sea, you use the front parts. Did you see my tongue there? A little there?
Yeah.
So it was different muscles, and it was culture also, culture shock. Uh, Here in America, people are very personable, you know. In Mexico, you look and you put your head down and keep walking, or it was very different. But it was certainly a blessing, and I'm grateful for the fact that nobody spoke Spanish at the university. Nobody that I couldn't, you know, not speak English. I had to learn English. There was no other choice. My Spanish compared to my sister's Spanish is very different because they grew up in Florida and there's a lot of Spanish speaking people, so it's a lot more broken. But I was very fortunate and grateful that I was in a place that only English. So,
And see, there again, let's look at the positive side of that. Let's be grateful for what we do have. We have
Exactly.
the opportunity to learn English, because I can't sit back I can't take a seat and just relinquish control and speak Spanish. I've got to learn to speak English in order to
Right.
communicate with
Right.
anybody. You're amazing. All right, so let's talk salsa. And for those of you who heard her story, Maggie created some salsa, and it became Maggie Salsa, which is what you see in Whole Foods and Walmart and such and so forth. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know that the story behind that, there was one particular gentleman at that contest who influenced you, and I'd love for you to share that story and how it triggered your decision about how you wanted to live going forward.
Are you talking about the guy that gave me something?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. I was so we were in this event, in this contest, and I remember it was sunny. There's a lot of bright colors. There's a lot of Mexican hats. There's a la mariachi band playing, and all these people gather around my table, and they're like, where can we buy your product? This product is amazing." I'm like, "I don't have it for sale. I just made it for you guys to try." And So I was talking, and everybody just kept coming and coming and asking me where they can they buy this product. And I remember, you know how when you have a feeling that somebody is on the side, standing there watching, but you can just feel it. You're not seeing that. You know that essence. So he was there the whole time, and I think I maybe looked over once or twice, and he was this guy with, dressed up with a tie, and he was just standing looking. And I remember telling people that I didn't have money because I just came out of being homeless, and that I didn't have money to start a business or to sell this stuff. And when these people dispersed, this guy came to me and he says, "I heard you, and I can tell that you have a fire about you, and I want to do something for you. But as long as that when I do this for you, that you get to do the same thing for someone else." And he pulled out his wallet and gave me $800. Next month, I started my business with $800, bought a little chopper. That's all I had, $800. I remember doing 1 gallon things of salsa and selling it, reinvesting it. And I had like a $1 bills, like that much. And I'd be like, woohoo, dreaming that I was a millionaire. And my friends would think I was crazy. They're like, what are you doing? My business partner walked in on me. She wasn't my business partner back then. She laughed at me. You're crazy. And I was kind of like, woo, and then put it down. But I knew, I had that knowing that it was going to be something big, especially because nobody knew fresh salsa back then. And nobody understood the concept. I thought I had a niche. I knew I understood how big it could be. So I just kept on going.
And it was that one gentleman who inspired you.
Yes.
And here's again another thing that was a teaching moment for me, because $800 is not a lot of money to start a business with. But you looked at it as, this is $800. This is way more money than I've had. And you didn't minimize what you had been given. You maximized the impact that it had on you. And that in that sense of gratitude of saying, look at what I have. And with every time you sold your first buckets or pints or whatever of salsa, it was, look at what I have. I have a stack of $1 bills, but I know, I love that. Isn't that great?
I love it.
That is really inspirational. So now you're very invested in your orphanage where you came from, and helping. And I know that helping other people, because of your recognition of all the good that's in your life and because of your gratitude for everything that you have, you very willingly give more of that. You now have a passion and an interest in. Tell us a little bit about the orphanage and the nonprofit that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of years ago, we got a call saying that a group of people, 50 people, were going to come in and take over the orphanage and take the kids. At that time, there was 3 drug cartels fighting each other, and we were told that it was involved with a drug cartel. So I flew there. It was the fastest flight to Mexico that I've ever gotten into. Literally, I booked my flight at night, arrived in Mexico like the next day early, fastest trip I've ever made. As soon as I got there, we ended up rescuing other kids that were sex trafficking victims, like 2 and 4-year-old girls, and they were completely destroyed. I'm talking stuff that you don't even, I don't even want to paint a picture of what that looks like, because it might be hard for some viewers. But you talk about physically, emotionally, and we ended up taking these kids in, and I remember hearing some gunshots, and I remember putting everybody in this like 20 by 20 room or so. And my brother and I, Jose, he was adopted, one of the adopted kids, and I actually have a photo of it on my website in my video. But we, how do you say, did a stakeout for 30 days. I had a 38 special gun caliber, and we made a Chisa shotgun, which is a handmade shotgun. 20 gauge, and we slept on the concrete floor outside, and all the kids knew. And I told there was 3 people there that were older that took care of the kids, and I said, you must not show that you're afraid. I know that the kids can feel something's going on, but do not show that you're afraid. And I kept our guns hidden. Go ahead.
Because you were protecting them.
Right.
You were actually acting as a guard, and
Yes.
the adults were acting as guards for these children so that the sex traffickers didn't come and kidnap them and then
Right.
sell them.
There was an incident where, and I talk about the greatest form of giving is not money, is when you're willing to give, with your actions. And in my case, I was giving with my life. There's some points and instances where I thought that my life was going to end because of the things that happened. But fortunately, we did involve the federales in the military, and they came in and they actually patrolled the orphanage after we had an incident that happened after I was there. And I would make sure to get up at 3 a.m. They would give me cookies and coffee because I wanted them there to stay. They would come every single day with their lights on. And, it was such an amazing experience that when that came to pass, I was able to come back. But to me, it was a situation where I was not going to allow anybody to harm these kids. And I was willing to give my life for that. I really was willing to give my life.
And now that organization is your nonprofit. Is that correct?
It's a nonprofit that was existing.
Okay.
My brother is his wife. He's my youngest brother. His wife was trafficked for sex for 10 years.
Mm.
And my brother she thought that my brother wouldn't want her, but he took her anyway. And so they understand the issues. I'm actually working on a documentary and a movie with some Hollywood producers. We're going to do a movie and a documentary on awareness on human trafficking, sex trafficking, because it happens a lot. It's not even a third world country thing. It's an America thing. We are the biggest client. People don't know that. It's in the backyard. And so just bringing awareness and a big part of that is the gratitude that's going to come with that, because the good that we're going to be making with that.
I know that you're a speaker on the national circuit now, and you're speaking in front of a lot of organizations, and many of them have young people who are coming to hear you about developing their own philosophies of life and life skills. And what is a key message that you share with them about living a life of gratitude? How do you relate that to them?
The biggest thing that I talk about, honestly, is appreciation, gratitude, because people don't realize how good we have it in this country and all the blessings that we have by having the freedoms that we have here. That it's something that it always stays for you, and that you're always grateful for who you have, who you are, what you have, and the opportunities that you have in front of you. These people just don't realize until they have a dramatic experience like that.
I have one final question before our final question. You like that? We've got 2 final questions. And that is when somebody comes up to you after hearing you speak and they say, I don't have it nearly like you did growing up or anything, but I do have issues with my family. I have issues with, I've lost this job. I've lost, or I've lost a loved one or something like that. What are your words of wisdom for them about how to view their life at that moment when it seems so difficult?
That's a complex question, because when somebody's suffering, no matter what you're suffering from, it requires for me to have a conversation, a one-on-one scheduled conversation with that person, to be able to find out everything that's around their life that's affecting their life and how can they make a change. I am a life coach, so I often ask that we meet and that we talk about things. But I think that if I could tell people one thing that is very, very powerful for me and for the people that I've spoken to, is that if you can have this attitude, this attitude of gratitude, but also have this mentality of always thinking that the best is going to happen for you, that you're going to always make the right choices. And even if you go backwards, you're still on, you can still get on track. It's all about the vocabulary that you have in your mind that will make you either a victim or a victor. And it's all about how you see what you have in front of you, because if there's two Maggies and one Maggie sees the world as a pessimist and the other one as an optimist, you will see which Maggie is going to be more successful spiritually, economically, in many, many, many different ways, just because of the way you change to see you choose to change to see things and see the world. And that's super powerful for people to take away.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. All right, Sharon's going to wrap us up.
Wow, I'm
I know,
listening.
we're floating.
Just listening so much to your story, and it's all right. So we've been talking a lot about gratitude through this talk. How would you summarize your personal definition of gratitude, Maggie?
There are no words. My gratitude is this. Because gratitude is just a man-made word of a certain understanding that could be interpreted many different ways. Gratitude to me is silent appreciation, and not even appreciation is the right word for it.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because of what I said earlier. Your life has been so infused with gratitude. It's a natural part of your thought process, of your decision making, of your response mechanisms. It's like tissue to you. It's like the tissue on your body is the best way that the way I see it, and how you respond to things. It's a part of you. It's like another part of you, an organ that's functioning. Wow. Maggie, you are amazing. And I want to tell the attendees for the summit too, if you want to hear more about Maggie, maybe ask her some questions, get in touch with her as a life coach. You can find more about her at MagieCook.com. That's 1G, MAGIECOOK.com. It will be in the credits. And also you'll find it on the Summit Day page for today's talk. But Maggie, thank you so much for being here. You've truly inspired us. I don't know if you can tell by how many tabs I have on my book, because when I fill in for Unity churches throughout Florida, filling in for ministers, I use a lot from your books, and you've made your way into several of my talks because you really have a great way to summarize a lot of the philosophies, but you've also had some really poignant insights into life. So thank you. As I tell the congregants, you are one of my teachers, and I love having you to be able to pick your brain and to learn from, and you inspire me very much. And thank you so much for being in the summit with us today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and thank you, Maggie. You know, I didn't know what I'm amazed at what I get every time we have a conversation. And for you, just thank you you're such a gift to the world with what you have been through, and that you bring this hope, that you turned it around so amazingly that so many people can learn, that they could see the possibilities of that, where, you know, they could go into such a dark place, but you inspire people to see not going to that dark place, that it's possible to have that hope. And I love that word hope that you use sometimes in place of gratitude. Thank you so much
You're very welcome.
for who you are and what you do.
Thanks for being on the show and being in our summit, Maggie. We love having you.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful day.
You too.